I've been back from Toronto for just a few days, and while I was there, I had this kind of mental discovery, and I'm going to tell you about that here in just a second. But before I do, I wanted to say hello to John, who listened to me mention the Mastermind Weekend that's coming up in a previous podcast, and he already got his ticket. If you were interested in having 2 days, like a full day, maybe Friday night, Saturday, and then most of Sunday morning, or all of Sunday morning, with me in the mastermind capacity. You want to learn from me, get access to some of the guys and girls that are in my network who will also be there. It's going to be a pretty small group, I'm not going to lie, but I want it that way. If you are interested in attending, grabbing a ticket to Mastermind Weekend, go to ElleryWells.com/MMWeekend, MMWEEKEND, and join me and Jason and John and a few other people who have gotten their tickets, and I want to see you there. But have you ever stopped to consider that we are more alike than we are different? It's a thought that came to me while I was in Toronto, and if you want to leave me a comment, I'd love to hear about this. If you're listening on iTunes and Stitcher, go to ElleryWells.com/alike, ALIKE, and leave me a comment. This is going to be pretty short today, but I hope it's one of the more powerful things that you listen to today, because it hit me. And I'm going to tell you about that, because when I was in Toronto, this was actually last weekend. Today is Friday. I'm recording on a Friday. That's not usually how that works. But just 5 days ago, I was in Toronto, Canada, and it was cold and wet and rainy and all that kind of stuff. But I was attending a conference called Vacation Rental Success Summit. I think if you have vacation rentals or you want to get into renting out some real estate, I'd highly recommend that you check out Vacation Rental Success Summit, probably.com. But Mike and his mom, Heather, have kind of dominated the market as far as podcasting and everything in Canada, and they were putting together this conference. And I don't have vacation rentals. I've never stayed in one. I've never done Airbnb or anything like that. But I was connecting with these owners from around the world, most of them from the United States, but people from the UK, Australia, Canada, who did own real estate, and they were renting it out. These are the people that whose homes you would stay in if you were to go to HomeAway or Airbnb or VRBO, those kinds of things. They're great people. A lot of them were older than me, and I didn't really know that I would have that much in common with them. And again, I hadn't stayed in one. I don't own a vacation rental house, but I wanted to go to support a good friend of mine, see him on stage, get some, you've heard me talk about my camera, I think, and I wanted to take some pictures of him, help him build his business and those kinds of things. And you know what? I can do my business from anywhere. And I was like, well, what the heck? Why not just go to Toronto? But while I was there on Friday, so exactly a week ago, Jason and the guy, Mike, and just for you guys that are listening, I'm referring to Jason because nobody else knows him as Beaton, or up there they didn't. So if you've ever heard me talk about Beaton, my good friend, owner of Airtight Marketing, certified active campaign expert, all that kind of business, they're the same person, but I got in the habit of calling him Jason, and because I didn't want to refer to him as Beaton and have nobody know who he was, but I wanted to go and support him. And he was doing this workshop on Friday along with Mike, the guy who started it, and I was just there taking pictures, walking around the room, listening to stories. But I finally got up and I started to interact and engage with some of the attendees. And at first, I didn't really expect to have much in common with them. Most of them were older. I think the crowd there is probably on average 45 to 65. And again, they're from around the country. I don't own any real estate. So yeah, I was just kind of not really expecting to discover what I'm going to share with you. And I was in a strange country. I was tired. And as you know, I'm introverted, and we'd stayed up way too late the night before and gotten up early. And I was definitely outside of my comfort zone. But as I was talking with more of these vacation rentals, I learned something. And what I learned was very powerful. And I think, though deep down I knew what this lesson was, I'd kind of forgotten it, and I needed to be reminded of it. And I think you might need to be reminded of it too, especially if you're on social media or you watch the news, those two things. But we'll get to that here in a second. But here's what I learned. We are more alike than we are different. If you have logged on to social media over the last several months, you watch me on Snapchat, which you should. I share fun things. Social media has really sucked over the last few months, really starting maybe about a year ago with the election here in the U.S. It's just been, to use an old 1800s term or term from the 1800s, there's a lot of mudslinging, and a lot of friends were just treating people like crap. Social media has been hell over the last several months. And scrolling through your Facebook feed, you probably noticed a lot of this negativity, opposing opinions, and all sorts of reasons why you should unfriend or unfollow people that you have known or have been in your life or you have worked with for years. All of a sudden, everybody's calling everybody a racist. All of a sudden, everybody is derogatory and demeaning. This election really brought out a lot of I don't think there's actually that much anger in the world as we would be led to believe. I think some angry people and some misguided people were louder than everybody else, but that's a topic for a different day. But let's say even if you weren't on social media, if you watch the news, those things haven't been any better. I mean, the United States is getting really bad rap right now. Last year I was in San Diego, side story, and I was talking to a guy from Australia, and he told me that his friends, also in Australia, warned him about going to the United States because of all the murders. And I was like, what are you talking? Guys, if you're in the U.S., call up one of your international friends and tell them it's not a crappy place to be. There are nice people here. There are hardworking, good people here. And the news channels would almost, I'm sure that's how these guys in Australia came to the conclusion that everybody was just getting shot here in the United States. And this was in San Diego. I mean, that's like a 2-day drive from Texas. And the U.S. is a big place. Yeah, bad stuff happens, but it just really hit me that when you flip over to any major network, you see all these hate crimes and beatings and firebombings and all sorts of bad things happening to people just like you and me. It's like, so you and me, I'm here in my office, you're in your car, you're at your office or whatever. Just average people, but we see all this stuff bad happening. But sitting there learning about the problems, challenges, and goals and dreams of the entrepreneurs there in Toronto, I couldn't help but feel kindness and sympathy and empathy and understanding and friendship towards these people that I had never met before and I'd really only spent a few minutes with. And the more they talked, the more I felt like we were alike. And that's the message that I want you to hear today and that I want you to leave with. There are more things that connect us than that keep us apart. We are more alike than we are different. And for the most part, we all want the same things. We want happiness and safety, energy and opportunity. We want a chance to succeed on our terms, to be judged for what we do, not how we look. We want to be able to make choices and go after the things that we want. For lack of a better term, we want life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. We want to travel. How many people do you talk to? They're like, yeah, I'd really like to travel someday. And how many people actually do that? So we all want to travel. We want to spend time with our friends and our family. And that's just the beginning. That's where the similarities don't end there. But before you let a news channel or a news feed tell you what you should think or how you should feel about somebody, sit down and try to understand them. Now, if you know me, if you've met me in person, you know I'm not some peacekeeper. I don't try to find the middle ground in every situation. I'm usually, actually, that's probably not very much like me at all. I'm not the one who you would go to if you wanted to make sure everybody gets along. And I'm not someone who just innately looks for the good in other people. I'm kind of skeptical sometimes. I think I've talked about that on the show. But I am someone who was too shy to speak up, but I learned a lot from just listening in. I might not have said much whenever I was talking to those guys in the workshop, but I learned a lot by listening. And again, we're going to keep it short today, but there are more things that connect us than that keep us apart. We're more alike than we are different. And I hope you have an amazing day.